Elena had built La Cocina del Alma from the ashes of her dreams. A hole-in-the-wall tapas joint tucked into the labyrinthine alleys where tourists rarely wandered and locals whispered about the American expat who cooked like she was exorcising ghosts. She'd fled New York after the divorce. Her ex-husband's polished betrayal still tasted like ash on her tongue, and washed up in Spain 3 years ago, chasing the Mediterranean sun to burn away the chill of betrayal. At 38, Elena was all sharp edges, high cheekbones honed by late-night shifts, auburn waves streaked with the silver of too many worries, and hands that could julienne an onion blindfolded but trembled when she poured herself a nightcap. Her restaurant wasn't fancy. No Michelin stars here, just scarred wooden tables, flickering candles in recycled jam jars, and the sizzle of paella pans that drowned out the ache in her chest. She was a lesbian in a city that embraced love in all its forms, but Elena had sworn off it after Maria, the gallery owner who'd promised forever and delivered only empty canvases and a one-way ticket to heartbreak. That stormy October night in 2015, the girl appeared like a stray cat at the kitchen door, banging on the metal with fists too small for the fury in her eyes. Elena had been closing up alone, the last server gone, the air thick with the ghosts of garlic and saffron. "Please," the girl rasped, her Spanish laced with the flat vowels of someone from across the Atlantic. American, Elena guessed, like herself. "I haven't eaten in 2 days. Anything. I'll wash dishes." Her name was Sarah Ruiz, she said later. 16 and adrift after her parents' car accident back in Chicago left her orphaned and broke. The system had chewed her up. Foster homes that felt like prisons, a ticket to Europe she'd bought with her last savings on a whim, thinking Barcelona's bohemian streets would swallow her whole. But the streets didn't care about dreams. They just left you hollow. Elena should have called the cops or social services, or anyone with a badge and a clipboard. Instead, she shoved a towel at the shivering girl and plated the remnants of that night's special. Gambas al ajillo, shrimp sizzling in olive oil and chili, with crusty bread to sop up the sauce. Sarah devoured it standing up, elbows on the prep counter, tears mixing with the garlic butter on her chin. "Why?" she mumbled between bites, wiping her mouth with the back of her hand. Elena leaned against the fridge, arms crossed over her chef's whites, watching the way the girl's throat worked, the desperate rhythm of survival. "Because I've been hungry too," Elena replied, her voice low, like she was sharing a secret recipe. Not for food. For something real. That was the hook that reeled Sarah in, though she didn't know it then. Elena let her crash on the cot in the storage room that night, amid sacks of rice and crates of wine, the hum of the walk-in cooler a lullaby against the thunder. By morning, Sarah was scrubbing pots like she'd been born to it, her skinny arms flexing under the weight of the steel. Elena taught her the knife work, how to mince parsley without bruising it, the whisper of the blade against the board like a lover's breath. They didn't talk much at first. Words were dangerous, Elena knew. Bridges that could collapse under the weight of truth. But Sarah's presence filled the empty spaces. The laugh she let slip when Elena burned the tortilla española for the first time in years. The way she'd hum old jazz tunes from her mom's vinyl collection while rolling out dough for churros. Weeks blurred into months. Barcelona's winters were mild, but the wind off the Ramblas bit like regret, and Elena found herself buying Sarah a wool coat from the market, secondhand but lined with fleece, the kind that hugged without clinging. "You're not my mom," Sarah said one evening, shrugging it on as they walked home from the market, arms laden with figs and manchego. Elena's laugh was sharp, a release valve. "Good. I suck at bedtime stories." But later, in the dim light of the apartment above the restaurant, a cramped 2-bedroom with views of graffiti-tagged walls, Elena watched Sarah sleep on the pull-out couch, her face slack and peaceful, and felt the stirrings of something dangerous. Protectiveness, sure, but laced with a tenderness that made her chest ache, the kind she'd buried after Maria. Sarah opened up in fragments, like peeling an onion that brought tears every layer. Her parents had been artists, her dad a sculptor, her mom a painter, living hand-to-mouth in Pilsen until the drunk driver on Lakeshore Drive stole them both. They were in love, you know? The real kind. Danced in the kitchen to Coltrane at midnight. Sarah's voice cracked as she stirred the sofrito, her knife flashing under the fluorescence. Elena nodded, tasting the salt in her own throat. My ex-wife danced too. But she forgot the steps. She didn't say Maria's name. didn't admit how the woman had traded their Brooklyn brownstone for a loft in Chelsea and a younger muse. Sarah reached across the counter then, her small hand covering Elena's scarred knuckles, a touch so light it might have been wind. Elena froze, the warmth seeping like sangria into her veins. "You're not forgotten here," Sarah whispered, and Elena believed her, just for a moment. By spring, La Cocina del Alma had a new rhythm. Sarah waitressed on weekends, her easy smile drawing in the neighborhood crowd. Fishermen from the port, artists nursing sangria, expats like Elena chasing reinvention. Elena expanded the menu. Sarah's idea? A fusion twist with Chicago deep dish elements folded into Spanish classics, like empanadas stuffed with Italian sausage and smoked provolone. Critics from El País started trickling in, murmuring about the soulful surprise in the Gothic Quarter. Elena poured the profits into fixing the place up. A fresh coat of ochre paint, hanging lights strung like stars. But money couldn't fix the growing tension between them. The way Sarah's gaze lingered on Elena's mouth when she licked sauce from her thumb, or how Elena's dreams tangled with the girl's laughter, waking her in sweats with a longing she dared not name. It was June, the air thick with jasmine and the distant crash of waves from Barceloneta, when the first crack appeared. They were prepping for the summer rush, hips brushing in the tight kitchen, when Sarah turned too quick, her shoulder grazing Elena's breast. Time stuttered. Elena's breath hitched, and Sarah's cheeks flushed the color of ripe tomatoes. "Sorry," Sarah muttered, but her eyes said otherwise, wide and searching. Elena stepped back, wiping her hands on her apron like it could erase the spark. "Get the ice for the gazpacho," she said, sharper than she meant. That night, alone in her bed with the ceiling fan whirring like accusations, Elena traced the ghost of that touch. Sarah was 17 now, blooming like the bougainvillea outside the window, curves softening her frame, confidence sharpening her wit. Too young, Elena told herself, echoing the societal scripts she'd fled across an ocean. But lies have a way of festering, and Elena's silence built walls higher than the Sagrada Familia's spires. Summer brought tourists in droves and with them opportunity. A scout from a high-end hotel chain spotted Elena at a food festival in La Boqueria, offering her a sous chef gig at their new waterfront spot. Triple the pay, a chance to go legit. "Think about it," the man said, slipping her a card embossed with gold. Elena pocketed it, glancing at Sarah across the stall, haggling over olives with a vendor, her laughter carrying on the breeze. That night, over a bottle of Rioja on the tiny balcony, Elena broached it. "What if we leveled up? You and me running a real kitchen." Sarah's eyes lit up, then dimmed. "You mean leave this?" She gestured to the alley below, alive with street musicians and the scent of paella from a neighbor's grill. Elena shrugged. "Bigger dreams, kid. For both of us." "But dreams have shadows." Sarah started pulling away, late nights out with friends she'd made at the market, kids her age, full of rebellion and cheap wine. Elena caught the scent of smoke on her clothes, the faint bruise of a hickey on her neck one morning. "Who's the boy?" she asked, casual as chopping cilantro, but her knife slipped, nicking her thumb. Sarah's laugh was brittle. "Jealous." The word hung like humidity, and Elena bandaged her finger in silence, the blood a stark red against the gauze. She wasn't jealous, not of some fumbling teen boy, but of the ease Sarah had with the world, the way she dove into life without the baggage Elena carried like an overstuffed duffel. By autumn, the offer from the hotel loomed, and Elena accepted it, framing it as their ticket out. Sarah nodded, but her smiles grew forced, her shifts shorter. One night after closing, Elena found her on the rooftop, technically illegal, but the view of the cathedral's spires at twilight was worth the fine, smoking a cigarette she'd bummed from a busker. "You ever think about staying small?" Sarah asked, exhaling smoke that curled like questions. Elena sat beside her, the concrete warm from the day's sun. "Small's safe. But safe's not living." Sarah turned, her face inches away, the city lights reflecting in her eyes like stars in a puddle. "What if I want small with you?" The words tumbled out, raw and unfiltered, and Elena's heart slammed against her ribs. She could have bridged the gap, tasted the wine on Sarah's lips, claimed the moment. Instead she stood, the rooftop gravel crunching under her boots. "You're a kid, Sarah. Finish school. Live your life." She walked away, leaving the girl with the smoke and the stars, the first betrayal etched in the space between them. Winter wrapped Barcelona in a damp chill, the kind that seeped into bones and bred doubts. Elena threw herself into the new job at Hotel Mar Vista, a gleaming behemoth on the Passaic Maritime with ocean views and a clientele that tipped in euros and egos. The kitchen was a pressure cooker, brass-top stoves, a brigade of white-jacketed line cooks barking orders in Catalan and French, but Elena thrived on the chaos, her American grit earning nods from the head chef, a stern Basque named Javier. Sarah enrolled in night classes at a local lyceum, studying literature and art history, her days split between waitressing gigs and sketching in the margins of her notebooks. They shared the apartment still, but it felt like cohabitation with ghosts. Polite breakfasts of café con leche and tostadas, evenings where Elena came home to find Sarah's laughter echoing from a phone call with friends. The distance grew, measured in unspoken glances and the faint scent of someone else's perfume on Sarah's scarves. Elena dated, a blind setup from Javier, a curator named Lucia with sleek black hair and a laugh like champagne bubbles. They met at a vermouth bar in Gracia. Lucia's hand light on Elena's arm as she recounted tales of avant-garde exhibits. It was easy, surface level, the kind of romance Elena told herself she deserved. But when Lucia kissed her goodnight, Elena's mind flashed to Sarah's almost confession on the rooftop, and she pulled back, blaming the wine. "Call me," Lucia said, her eyes hopeful, but Elena let the number fade from her phone. Sarah noticed, of course. "How was the date?" she asked one morning, buttering her toast with aggressive swipes. Elena sipped her coffee, black as her mood. "Fine. She's cultured." Sarah snorted, hazel eyes narrowing. "Cultured? Right. Because that's what you need. Someone to drag you to galleries and talk about dead painters." Elena set her mug down hard, the ceramic clinking. "And what's wrong with that?" "Stability, Sarah. Not every story ends in flames." The girl flinched but fired back. "Yours did. With Maria. But you're still chasing her ghost." Elena's laugh was hollow. "At least I know what I want. What about you? Still playing house with that guitarist from the Ramblas?" Sarah's cheeks burned and she stormed out, the door slamming like a guillotine. The fight lingered, a bruise that colored everything. Elena worked longer hours perfecting molecular gastronomy twists on classics. Foie gras espuma with truffle air. A far cry from the soulful simplicity of La Cocina. Javier praised her, but his eyes lingered too long, paternal concern masking something sharper. "You're wasting away, Vargas. Eat something." She waved him off, but the mirror didn't lie. Hollow cheeks, shadows under her eyes like smudged charcoal. Sarah's sketches piled up on the coffee table. Abstract forms of intertwined figures, lovers locked in eternal embrace, the lines bold and unapologetic. Elena studied them in secret, tracing the curves with her fingertip, wondering if they were self-portraits or accusations. Spring unfurled in riots of color. Azaleas exploding along the avenues, the air humming with cicadas and street festivals. Sarah turned 18 in April, a quiet affair at a tapas crawl in El Born. Elena gifted her a leather-bound journal, embossed with a silver olive branch. "For your stories," she said, their fingers brushing in the exchange. Sarah's smile was tentative, but her hug lingered, Elena's chin resting on the girl's dark curls, inhaling the scent of lavender shampoo and possibility. "Thank you, Elena. For everything." The words carried weight, a bridge half-built, but Elena stepped back, ever the architect of her own isolation. That summer Lucia reappeared, persistent as the heat wave baking the city. They fell into a rhythm. Dinners at hidden gems in the Izample, walks along the beach where the sand stuck to their bare feet. Lucia was everything Elena thought she needed. Sophisticated, unattached, her touch igniting sparks without demanding a bonfire. "You're holding back," Lucia murmured one night, her head on Elena's pillow in the apartment. Sarah was out, thank God. Elena stared at the ceiling cracks, mapping constellations. Old habits. Lucia propped on an elbow, her dark eyes probing. "Tell me about her. The one who broke you." Elena hesitated, then spilled. Maria's infidelity, the divorce papers served over eggs Benedict, the flight to Spain like shedding skin. Lucia listened, then kissed her temple. "You're not broken. Just cautious. Let me in." Sarah walked in on them a week later, the apartment door creaking open mid-kiss on the couch. Elena pulled away, Lucia's lipstick smudged on her collar like evidence. Sarah stood frozen, backpack slipping from her shoulder, her face a mask cracking at the edges. "Oh, didn't know you had company." Her voice was even but her eyes, those hazel storms, betrayed the hurt. Lucia stood gracious as ever.
"I'm Lucia."
"Nice to meet you." Sarah nodded, forcing a smile. "Sarah, Elena's roommate." The word landed like a slap and Elena winced. After Lucia left, the silence stretched taut. "She's nice," Sarah said finally, shrugging off her jacket.
Elena nodded, ticked.
"Yeah, she is." But niceness wasn't love, and Elena knew it. She threw herself deeper into work, Javier promoting her to head chef with a raise that allowed her to buy out La Cocina del Alma remotely, turning it over to a trusted line cook. Sarah aced her exams, landing a scholarship to the University of Barcelona for fine arts, her sketches evolving into bold oils of urban grit and tender intimacies. They coexisted, orbiting like wary planets, the tension electric but unspoken, until the night of the Vermouth Festival, when the streets ran with rivers of the bitter aperitif and laughter echoed off the stone facades. Elena had dragged Sarah out, insisting on normalcy, a mother's ploy, though neither would name it. They wandered the Barri Gothic, sampling Botafara sausages and glasses of vermouth on tap, the crowd a swirl of faces flushed with alcohol and abandon. Sarah loosened up, her arm linking Elena's as they dodged revelers, her laughter bubbling like the drink in their cups. "Remember our first summer?" she shouted over the music from a busker's guitar. Elena grinned, the gin fizzing in her veins. "How could I forget? You nearly set the kitchen on fire with that chuo experiment." Sarah's eyes sparkled, close enough to count the flecks of gold in the hazel. "Best mistake ever." They found a quiet plaza, ivy-draped benches under lantern light, and collapsed together, shoulders touching. The air hummed with unspoken history. "Elena," Sarah started, her voice soft against the distant cheers. "That night on the rooftop. I meant it. I think I love." Elena's heart seized, panic flooding like ice water. She couldn't let it happen, couldn't be the villain in this girl's origin story. "Don't," she cut in, sharper than Vermouth's bite. "You're young, Sarah. The world's waiting. Don't hitch your star to someone like me." Sarah recoiled, the rejection a visible wound. "Someone like you? What does that even mean? I'm not a kid anymore." Tears welled, spilling over as she stood. "You fed me once. Now you're starving us both." She vanished into the crowd, leaving Elena with the dregs of her drink and a hollow chest. The fallout was seismic. Sarah moved out a week later, crashing with a classmate in the Raval, her things packed in garbage bags like trash. Elena signed the lease over to Lucia's name in a haze, the apartment echoing with absence. Months blurred. Elena and Lucia made it official. Rings exchanged in a civil ceremony at the adjuntament, whispers of a bigger wedding in the fall. Javier toasted her success, oblivious to the fracture. Sarah's texts came sporadic, graduation photos, a gallery opening invite she declined. Elena watched her bloom from afar, social media glimpses of Sarah's art shows, her smile bright but edged with steel. By 2020, Elena was 40, head chef at Mar Vista. Lucia's hand steady in hers at industry galas. The world tilted with pandemic lockdowns, Barcelona's streets emptying like a drained glass. But Elena's kitchen pivoted to takeout, her fusion dishes a lifeline for the neighborhood. Sarah graduated, her thesis on queer narratives in Spanish cinema earning raves, then landed a fellowship in Madrid. They spoke once, a stilted call over FaceTime, Sarah's face framed by bookshelves in a sunlit flat. "I'm proud of you," Elena said, meaning it. Sarah's nod was curt. "Take care of yourself, Elena." The screen went dark, the silence louder than ever. Time that cruel editor cut deeper. Elena proposed a destination wedding to Lucia, intimate, on a cliffside in Costa Brava, but Lucia dreamed bigger. A luxury affair at a vineyard estate outside the city, 200 guests, strings quartet and all. "Our story deserves fanfare," Lucia insisted, and Elena acquiesced, burying the disquiet. Invites went out on heavy stock, gold embossed, including one to Sarah Ruiz, care of her Madrid address. "Old friend," Elena scrawled on the note, her pen trembling. "Missed you at the holidays.
Come celebrate?"
It was an olive branch or a grenade. Elena couldn't decide. The RSVPs trickled in, but Sarah's hung in limbo, a ghost in the stack. Elena told herself it didn't matter, threw herself into menu planning. Amuse-bouches of smoked eel on brioche, paella stations with interactive risottos. Lucia glowed, fittings for her Vera Wang gown a weekly ritual. But nights found Elena awake, staring at the ceiling, the weight of unsaid words pressing like a stone. Betrayal wasn't just leaving. It was the slow erosion, the choices that carved canyons between hearts. Then 2 weeks before the date, the reply arrived. A cream envelope, Sarah's looping script. "I'll be there," it read.
No flerisci, no worms.
Elena's pulse thrummed, a drumbeat of dread and hope. She tucked it away, but it burned, a secret ember in her chest. The vineyard estate sprawled like a Renaissance painting under the September sun. Rows of gnarled vines heavy with grapes that bled purple underfoot. The air scented with earth and anticipation. White tents billowed on the hillside, fairy lights strung between olive trees. A string quartet tuning Vivaldi on a dais overlooking the valley. Guests milled in linen suits and silk dresses. Lucia's art world coterie, Elena's culinary peers. A smattering of Elena's New York ghosts flown in for the spectacle. Javier clapped her on the back in the bridal suite, his mustache twitching with pride. "You did good, Vargas. This is living." Elena forced a smile, adjusting the pearl cufflinks on her cream tuxedo, the fabric starched and unforgiving against her skin. Lucia emerged from the dressing screen in a cascade of ivory lace, her veil a whisper of tulle, and Elena's breath caught, not from joy but the finality of it all. The ceremony unfolded like a well-rehearsed scene. Vows exchanged under a floral arch bursting with roses and eucalyptus, Lucia's voice steady with love, Elena's a touch too measured. Rings slid on with clicks like locks turning, the officiant, a silver-haired judge with a penchant for poetry, pronouncing them bound. Applause rippled, champagne corks popped, and Elena scanned the crowd as they kissed, light and chaste, her eyes snagging on a figure at the edge. Sarah, 25 now, transformed. Her dark curls were tamed into elegant waves, hazel eyes shadowed with kohl, a black sheath dress hugging her athletic frame like a second skin. She clapped politely, but her gaze locked on Elena's, a current pulling taut across the lawn. The reception swirled into motion, tables groaning under past hors d'oeuvres, laughter mingling with the clink of crystal. Elena played the part. Toasts with Javier, dances with Lucia under the lanterns, her hand firm on her wife's waist. But Sarah haunted the periphery, conversing with Lucia's painter friends, her sketches now fetching prices in Madrid galleries. When their eyes met across the bar, Sarah sipping a Negroni, Elena nursing a gin fizz, the air thickened, charged like the storm brewing over the Pyrenees. It was twilight when Elena found her, slipped away from the cake cutting to wander the vineyard paths, the gravel crunching under her loafers. Sarah leaned against a stone wall, silhouetted against the fading light, a cigarette unlit between her fingers. "Fancy meeting you here," Elena said, voice rough as the vines. Sarah turned, exhaling a ghost of smoke she hadn't inhaled. "Wouldn't miss it. You looked radiant." The word twisted, laced with irony. Elena stepped closer, the distance between them a chasm bridged by years. "You came. I wasn't sure." Sarah's laugh was low, bitter as the earth. "Curiosity. Or masochism. Take your pick." They walked in silence at first, the path winding through trellises heavy with fruit, fireflies winking like conspirators. Elena's tuxedo jacket hung open, the evening chill raising gooseflesh. "How's Madrid?" she asked, grasping for neutral. Sarah shrugged, her dress whispering against the leaves. "Busy. Shows in Bilbao next month." "You?"
Elena hesitated.
"Same kitchen, different title. Lucia keeps me grounded." The name dropped like a pebble in still water, ripples unspoken. Sarah stopped, turning to face her, the vineyard a blurred green halo. "Grounded? Is that what this is?" Her voice cracked, the dam breaking. "You invited me to watch you marry her." "Why, Elena?" "To twist the knife." Elena's chest tightened, the words she'd rehearsed dissolving like sugar in rain. I wanted you to see I'm okay. That we both are." Sarah's eyes flashed, tears catching the last light. "Okay. You think this is okay? You pulled me from that alley, fed me your food, your time, your heart. And then you pushed me away because I was too young."
"You waited, Elena."
"Years. thinking maybe you'd see me, really see me. She stepped forward, close enough for Elena to smell the citrus of her perfume, the salt of unshed tears. But you chose safe. Again. The confession unleashed the flood. Elena's hands trembled as she cupped Sarah's face, thumbs brushing the high cheekbones that had sharpened with time. I was scared, she admitted, voice breaking. Scared I'd ruin you. Like Maria ruined me. You were a kid, Sarah, bright, unbroken. I couldn't be the one to dim that. Sarah's breath hitched, her hands rising to grip Elena's wrists, holding her there. You already did. By not choosing us. The vineyard faded, the distant laughter of guests a muffled roar. There was only this, two women scarred by the same silence, the love they'd buried clawing free. Elena kissed her then, desperate and deep, tasting Negroni and regret. Sarah's response fierce, fingers tangling in auburn waves. It was revelation, the years collapsing into that press of lips, the truth they'd both evaded. But as they broke apart, gasping, reality intruded. The glow of lanterns from the tent, Lucia's voice calling Elena's name on the breeze. Sarah stepped back, wiping her mouth, eyes wild. What now? Elena's heart fractured anew, the ring on her finger a lead weight. I don't know. God, Sarah, I don't know. They returned separately, Elena rejoining the party with flushed cheeks and a story of spilled wine. Lucia's concern dismissed with a laugh. Sarah slipped away early, her goodbye a text. Some stories don't get happy endings. But they were real. Elena danced through the night, Lucia in her arms, but the steps felt hollow, the music a dirge. At dawn, as guests departed in chauffeured cars, Elena stood on the terrace, the valley mist shrouded, and made her choice, not with words but action. The divorce was amicable, filed quietly in October, Lucia's understanding a grace Elena didn't deserve. I saw it in your eyes during the vows, she said over coffee in there. No, her apartment, handing over the papers. Go find your soul, Elena. La Cocina del Alma called her back, the new owners eager for the original chef's return. Elena packed, leaving the hotel life behind, the vine's betrayal a lesson etched in soil. She drove to Madrid in November, the highway unspooling like a ribbon of resolve, Barcelona shrinking in the rearview. Sarah's gallery was in Malesana, a converted warehouse with exposed beams and canvases screaming queer defiance. Elena waited outside as the show opened, heart pounding like a misfired espresso shot, until Sarah emerged, coat slung over her arm, spotting her across the street. No words at first, just a nod, then Sarah crossing the cobblestones, her stride sure. I'm sorry, Elena said, the words tumbling free. For the fear. For the years. I love you, Sarah. Have since that rainy night. Sarah's eyes searched hers, the hazel depths holding storms weathered to calm. I know. But love's not enough if it's caged. She paused, then took Elena's hand, calluses from brushes meeting scars from knives. Let's uncage it. Start small. Dinner. They did. A hole in the wall in Chueca, gambas al ajillo on dented plates, laughter tentative but building like a roux thickening. No grand gestures, no luxury weddings, just two women, American souls in a Spanish world, feeding each other truths over shared bread. Betrayal had carved them hollow, but forgiveness filled the cracks, humanistic in its quiet grace. Not a fairy tale but a life, messy and luminous, where love wasn't a destination but the road they walked, hands linked against the dusk. Years later, at a small civil ceremony in that same Madrid plaza, with jasmine vines and a handful of friends, Javier toasting with tears in his eyes, Lucia sending flowers, they vowed again, not to perfection but to presence. Elena, 45 now with laugh lines etching her green eyes, looked at Sarah, 31 and radiant in a simple linen suit, and whispered, "This is the real feast." And in the laughter that followed, Barcelona's ghosts finally rested. The alley rain a distant memory, washed clean by time's gentle tide.